Well, hey, and good morning. Thank you so much for joining us today. I hope that your day is getting off to a fantastic start. And to be honest with you, if you're looking at these two faces right now and you're joining us for church, it's off to a pretty good start, I would say. But my name is Stuart, and with me today is Maggie. And
Hi,
wherever
everyone.
you're tuning in from, I hope that you just had a fantastic Thanksgiving weekend. And hopefully this is just a nice way to wrap it up. Hopefully that Thanksgiving meal that you had was just fun time, full of family and memories, laughs, all that kind of good stuff. And maybe, just maybe, you had to wake up Black Friday to go shopping, not necessarily for Christmas presents, but
Bigger pants.
bigger pants. Yeah. That's how you know that you did Thanksgiving,
Yeah.
right? Well, like I said, Maggie's with me today, and so I wanted to give her an opportunity. Actually, reverse that. I wanted to give you an opportunity to get to know her. And so I'm going to ask her a couple of questions just to let her introduce herself to you.
All right.
So you ready for this?
I'm ready.
Okay, here we go. So now that we're into the Christmas season,
Okay.
people love to go to their local coffee shops
Yes.
and hit their seasonal
I
favorite
love my coffee
drinks.
shops.
Yep, I do too. Great place to study, all that kind of stuff.
Exactly.
So do you have a seasonal favorite drink?
No, I'm not one of those seasonal type coffee drinkers.
Hmm.
I don't like the pumpkin spice latte or the peppermint mocha. I just go straight for the black coffee. Nothing in it.
Okay.
Straight black.
You know,
It's great.
I like my white peppermint mocha, so
Yeah.
you can just hold on to that information
Yeah.
for later if you need it. So
Right.
just saying, or any of you, you need information on what kind of drinks Stuart likes. Anyways, so that being said, hey, Thanksgiving, like I said, it just passed by. So there are two types of people in this world. There's the
is.
type of people like myself, the right people, that
Yeah.
they separate their food on the plate so the food doesn't mix around. And then there's other people that like just
Pile it on.
mix it all in.
I like to make a sandwich,
Oh,
a gourmet
man.
sandwich. A turkey, the cranberry sauce, the mashed potatoes, the stuffing, all just piled high. Just go for it.
There's a time for Thanksgiving sandwiches, and it's after Thanksgiving, not during the mealtime.
way.
I heard you say cranberry sauce.
Cranberry
Are you
sauce.
the cranberry jello mold type of person or the cranberry sauce?
No, I've never had the cranberry jello mold. It just doesn't even look appeasing. Yeah.
Yeah, it just kind of
No.
comes out of the can that
No,
way.
not good.
Sometimes, yeah.
I say
that's
stuffing
good.
though is my favorite.
Stuffing's good.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, it is
Yeah.
good.
Stuffing and mashed potatoes.
Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
yeah, so good. How long have you been coming to Lakeland?
I'm actually pretty new to Lakeland. I started around right after Easter time.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, welcome. We're glad
Thank
that you're
you.
here.
I know. I love it here.
Yeah. Hey, every time that you tune in, we ask you to do a couple of things. What are those two things, Maggie?
Where and share. We ask you to put in the text where you are tuning in from, and to hit the share button. Just by hitting the share button, you potentially can hit 100 people, not 1,000. That'd be great.
Who knows? Maybe you could be the person that helps reach 1,000 people.
Yeah, right. That'd be awesome.
If this is your first time with us, we also have a gift for you. How do they let us know that they're here?
So text in the chat, or put in the chat text new to 262-435-4390, or just put in the chat new.
Yeah,
There we go.
perfect. And like I said, we have a gift for you. It's our way of saying thank you for joining us today, and that we're so glad that you're here. Hey, if you want to partner with Lakeland, if you want to partner with us, one way that you can do that is financially, and the best way that you can do that is texting the word LCCGIVE to 77977. That's LCCGIVE to 77977. Pastor Joshua is kicking off a brand new series today. It's Advent, it's Christmas time, and he's going to be focusing in on the word hope. It is a great message, and I can't wait for you to hear it. But we always ask you to find your moment. What's find your moment?
Find your moment is basically, put in the chat, what moment really stood out to you, and yeah, just let us know what stood out.
Yeah, we'll take those and share them during the post show. So all that being said, the band is getting ready behind us. So if nobody else has told you yet, we want to be some of the first ones to say,
Welcome to
Lakeland.
Lakeland.
Good morning, church. We're so glad to see you today. Why don't you stand, and we're going to sing this morning together. Joy to the world. Joy to the world. The Lord is risen. Let earth receive her King. Let every heart prepare him room, and heaven and nature sing, and heaven and nature sing, and heaven and nature sing. We will sing, sing, sing. I'm so ready. I'm so ready. Well, today we're going to talk about hope, and I love it because many churches in the area are doing Advent all together. And so there's going to be hundreds of people walking out of church today with hope. How awesome is that? It's a wonderful thing. Now, I've dealt with some hardships in my life, and I know you have too. And I've found that sometimes I can make it through anything as long as I have hope. As long as I know there's light at the end of the tunnel somewhere, then I can be steadfast and I can make it through. Hope is so important. And oftentimes I start looking too much at earth and too much at the trial in front of me, and I forget to look toward eternity. Sometimes I forget that much of my hope is awaiting for me. So I'm going to read to you this morning from a kid's book. Because if you're like me, sometimes I'm too adultish. Anybody else? That I kind of lose my wonder. And I just am too adultish. Sometimes I need to hear things from a different perspective. So I'm going to read to you from this book. It's the Jesus Storybook Bible. I cry. My kids will laugh. They just wait for me to cry at every story because it's the most beautiful thing, I think. But this is the very last story, the end of the book. And it's in Revelation, and Jesus appears to John and says, John, write these things. Pick up your pen, write all the things that you see. And this is what it is. In child form, I see a sparkling city shimmering in the sky, glittering, glowing, and coming down from heaven and from the sky. Heaven is coming down to earth. And God's city is beautiful. Walls of topaz, jasper, sapphire, wide streets paved with gold, glimmering pearl gates that are never locked shut. Where is the sun? Where is the moon? They aren't needed anymore. God is all the light people need. No more darkness, no more night. And the king says, look, God and his children are together again. No more running away, no more hiding, no more crying or being lonely or being afraid, because no more being sick or dying, because all those things are gone. Yes, they are gone forever. Everything sad has come untrue. And see, I have wiped every tear from every eye. And then I heard a deep, beautiful voice that sounded like thunder. And it said, look, I am making all things new. In the darkness we were away, without hope that stone was moved for good, for the Lamb had conquered death, and the dead rose from their tombs, and the angels stood in awe, for the souls of all who come to the Father are restored, and the church of Christ was born. Then the Spirit lit the flame. Now this gospel truth of love shall not kneel and shall not fade. By His blood and in His name, in His freedom I am free. For the love of Jesus Christ, who has resurrected me. Oh, praise, praise the Father, praise the Son, praise the Spirit, three in one, God of glory, majesty, praise forever to the King of Kings. Oh, praise forever to the King of
How great the chasm that lay between us, how high the mountain I could not climb. In desperation, I turned to heaven, spoke your name into the night. And through the darkness, your loving kindness tore through the shadows of my soul. The work is finished, the end is written. Jesus Christ, my living hope. Who could imagine so great a mercy? What heart could fathom such boundless grace? The God of ages stepped down from glory to wear my sin and bear my shame. The cross is spoken, I am forgiven. The King of Kings calls me His own. Beautiful Savior, I'm yours forever. Jesus Christ, my living hope. Hallelujah, praise the one who set me free. Hallelujah, death has lost its grip on me. You have broken every chain. There's salvation in your name, Jesus Christ, my living hope. Then came the morning, sealed the promise. Your buried body began to breathe. Out of the silence, the roaring lion declared that great has no claim on me. Then came the morning that sealed the promise.
Thank you for worshiping. What a blessed thing to be declaring the truth of the Lord together. So beautiful. Thank you. You may have a seat.
What's up, Lakeland? Welcome to church. We're so excited to share everything that's happening this weekend. So whether you're checking us out for the first time or you call Lakeland home, go ahead and grab your phones and get ready to take some next steps. You can start by filling out the digital connection card. Just scan the QR code on the seat back in front of you or check out the chat for ways to connect. Each and every week, we want to help you take next steps in your faith and get you prayed up for the week ahead. So here's what's coming up next at Lakeland.
Here at Lakeland, we believe that one of the best ways to be like Jesus is to give like Jesus. So we are finishing the year with some of the best give back opportunities. We call it Project Share. We've already sent hundreds of Operation Christmas Child boxes overseas and are wrapping up food for families this week. These bags are going to bless so many local families with the pantry items that they need over Christmas break. Just a heads up, all Food for Family bags are due next Sunday, and you can turn them in at Event Central just outside of our main auditorium doors. To pack a bag digitally, text SHARE to 262-435-4390. Lakeland, thank you so much for your generosity.
And Project Share isn't over yet. We'll be finishing strong by hosting a food packing event with Children's World Impact on December 9th and 10th, right here at Lakeland. Our goal is to pack 100,000 meals, and it will make a huge global impact. It's a blast for all ages, so find your people, rally your work team, and get signed up. You can do that by texting SHARE to 262-435-4390.
Before we dive into the message, don't miss your opportunity to follow along with today's service live in the YouVersion Bible app. Click on Events to see all of the main points and Bible verses that we'll be talking about today. If you have any questions, don't hesitate to reach out. We'd love to help you on your journey here at Lakeland. You can email nextsteps@lakeland.church.
Lakeland up next, Pastor Josh is kicking off a brand new series, so get ready and find your moment. God has something for you today. We're so glad you're here.
Morning. How's everyone doing? This is a good group. I can just tell God is going to do some good things and is going to continue to. I'm excited about today as we launch into this new series. But before we hop into the series, I want to tell you about something or just give you a glimpse into something that's coming in the new year. I know, we're already talking next year. But go ahead and just roll this video real quick, and I'll talk through it.
And to accomplish than you could ever imagine. Don't come to the end of your life wondering. Join me on a 12-week journey of discovering the extreme nature of God and all that He is and all that He has for you in the God Experiment.
I know that's short and sweet, but you might be wondering, all right, what is this thing called the God Experiment? So for some of you who are around maybe at the beginning of last year, maybe you remember, I took a handful of weeks and I wrote a book. And so this is the fruition of all that coming now kind of to completion. And so I wrote a book, and it's a 12-week journey to experiment specifically the extreme nature of God. And I wrote it, yes, for the church, but also as kind of an extension for us to be able to invite people who you might say, man, I just wish that person would give God a fair shake. It's for that person. It's that person who might be a skeptic or a seeker or maybe just a complete non-believer, and you're sitting there going, I just wish they would give God an opportunity to show up and show off in their life. And so for the first 12 weeks of 2022, that's what we're going to do together as a church body, is we're going to journey through kind of this book together. Our huddles are going to be going through it. I'm going to just set up every single week kind of for the subject of what you're going to be diving into, and it'll be a ton of fun. And so so I think next week is when we're hoping the books will all be in, so you'll be able to buy a copy for you, for anyone you want to invite to join along. You picture it like a book study, if you will. Invite some of your coworkers and just do it over lunch break or something like that. But it is going to be a ton of fun. So I'm excited about that. You can start buying books next week. They'll also be available on Amazon and things like that for those of you joining us online. But they'll also be available here for you to pick up. All right, so today we launch into the series on Advent. Advent simply means the coming or the arrival. And so for these weeks that as we head into and toward Christmas, we're anticipating and getting ready for Christ's arrival. What's really cool about this year as we do this is lots of churches will do an Advent series. But this year, as we approached Advent, a bunch of the local pastors, we get together every single month. We started talking, what would it look like for us to all kind of collectively move together? Because there's typically like 5 main like Advent themes, and a lot of times you light a candle with each of those. And we said, what if we just did all those together? So I'm excited because right now 20 churches in Walworth County are all teaching through the same subjects collectively week after week. So whether you're down the road at Briggs Road Evangelical Free Church, Calvary Community Church, Chapel on the Hill, Christian Life Church in Elkhorn, Church of the Holy Communion in Lake Geneva, Christ Church in Delavan, Creek Road Community Church in Delavan, Creek Road, Delavan, Christian Reformed, East Troy Bible Church, Emmanuel Community, First Baptist Church in Delavan, Grace Evangelical Free Church, Lakeland, obviously, Lighthouse Full Gospel, Lynn Presbyterian, Living Word Assembly of God, Mount Zion Christian Church, Powerhouse Church in Lake Geneva, St. John's Church in Elkhorn, and Southern Lakes Evangelical Free. They're all doing this collectively, so isn't that cool? I love it. Super fun, because every one of those churches is centering our hearts today on kind of the same subject. And that subject that we are launching into today as we consider the themes of Advent, the first one is typically hope. And when I think about hope and why hope is so important is hope is the thing that carries you through the difficult situation you're facing now that gets you to your future. It's so important. It's funny. When I think about it, I experience the effort to try to give hope to my children all the time. So just picture it like this. A couple of years ago, I was dropping my oldest daughter, off at college in California. And when I dropped her off, we drove all the way out there, got her settled. She starts to meet, some of her roommates and people that she's going to be doing life with and all that. But the most important thing that I did before I left was made one purchase. And you want to know what that purchase was? A flight home for Christmas. That was it. That was the most important purchase that I made. Is that before I left, no matter whether it was going to be a good semester or a bad semester, I wanted her to know, here is your ticket, here's your seat, and we're going to see you in just a few months. And it just gave her a sense of hope that no matter what happens this semester, I'm going to make it home. I did it with my 7-year-old son this week. He's getting ready to go out the door to head to the school bus. And right as he's walking out the door, he starts to cry. I go, why are you crying, buddy? I get down on one knee. And he goes, because I miss Mom. I'm like, you realize she's like right upstairs. But immediately what I did is I said, I started telling her, you can do this with Mom later today. As soon as you get home, this is what you can end up doing with Mom. And immediately he had this sense of hope, just giving him a picture of what is to come. And that's what each and every one of us often need, is that we're all going to face moments in our life when we feel despair, we feel loneliness, we feel frustration or sadness or hurt. And how in the world do we make it from where we are today to our future? And hope is the key for that. That's what's necessary. So how and where do we find hope? The reason why we call this the hope candle is because, and a lot of times the place where we start as far as Advent's concerned, is this candle is often referred also to as the prophecy candle because of the prophecy that the Old Testament Israelites held on to for hundreds of years until Christ's arrival. So we'll go to a passage that's well known. It's Isaiah chapter 9. I'm going to read it to you right now. But this is one of those passages that so many Israelites anchored their hearts to. Annually, they're saying, okay, we're believing that hope is on the way. Now, you just need to know that when Isaiah wrote this, it was about 700 to 740 BC, before Christ's arrival. So if you've ever thought to yourself, man, I just need a little bit of hope to make it to the end of what I'm facing, whatever your thing is that you feel like is taking forever, you got nothing. On these folks that were holding on to hope for hundreds upon hundreds upon hundreds of years. But here's one of the passages that the people anchored their hearts to. Isaiah chapter 9, verse 1 through 2 starts with this: "Nevertheless, there will be no more gloom for those who were in distress. In the past, he humbled the land of Zebulun and the land of Naphtali, but in the future, he will honor Galilee of the nations by the way of the sea beyond the Jordan. The people walking in darkness have seen a great light. On those living in the land of deep darkness, a light has dawned." And he uses this illustration of the sun rising to kind of instill this idea that just as the sun always sets and it always comes up, in the same way, hope is on the horizon. He says, for those living in deep darkness, there will be hope, a great light that will dawn. And then he goes on in just a few verses later, verse 6 through 7, to paint this picture now of the coming Messiah who will fulfill that, who will be the light in a dark world. For unto us a child is born, to us a son is given, and the government will be on his shoulders. And he'll be called Wonderful Counselor, Mighty God, Everlasting Father, Prince of Peace. Of the greatness of his government and peace there will be no end. And he will reign on David's throne and over his kingdom, establishing and upholding it with justice and righteousness from that time on and forever. The zeal of the Lord Almighty will accomplish this. And I imagine it's that final line that for so many of these Israelites, they would say, okay, the zeal of the Lord, that means he is so passionate, he will accomplish this fulfillment. And so they held on to that hope was on the horizon. Although that hope that for the Israelites was literally hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of years out. And here's probably the biggest difference between the hope of the Israelites and the hope that you and I can carry today. And it's this: they hoped for what could be or what would be, while we hope in what is. Let me say it again. They hoped for hundreds of years, holding out hope for what they believed could be and ultimately would be. You and I actually have hope, not on what could be, but what is, what was accomplished, because Christ did come. Christ laid down his life for us at the cross. Christ reconciled all things to himself at the cross. Christ conquered the power of sin and death. Christ made a way for us to have a restored relationship with the Heavenly Father. Christ established a way for us to not just long for hope, but to actually live in hope now. It's a huge difference that they hoped for what could be. We hope in what is and actually also is to come. I want to look at the book of Ephesians because it's probably it is definitely one of my favorite books of the Bible. I know I say that all the time. I think this is one of my favorite passages, favorite book. But Ephesians totally is it, because it's just this book that anchors our hearts in our identity in Christ, but also in who we are and what is coming to us. It's the biggest book of now and future coming together in a single moment. It's just bizarre. It's amazing. And today we're actually going to see how our hope, in terms of where we can find our hope for today, in what is and is to come, both. And so let me just read to you Ephesians Chapter 1. I'm going to start in verse 18. I'm going to read about 5 verses here, and then we're going to talk this through in terms of places where you and I can always find hope for no matter what we're going through. He starts by saying this: I pray that the eyes of your heart might be enlightened. What does that mean? The eyes of your heart. That what's so deep within you, in your heart, what you believe at your core, that the eyes, meaning that they would be enlightened. And to be enlightened is to see light. It's to have this aha moment, that your heart would have this aha moment in order that you may know the what? The hope. Come on, you guys, there's more of you here. There's a lot of you here. Okay? To know the what? Hope. The hope to which he has called you. Okay, so he's going, I pray the eyes of your heart might be enlightened that you would know. Now, this Greek word that gets translated as know is actually to know a skill set. It would be like, I know how to play guitar. I know how to play piano. I know how to carry hope. I think one of our biggest problems with Christians is we've lacked the skill of that which we're supposed to have a skill for. We are literally, every single one of us who calls ourselves a Christian, you are supposed to have the skill of hope. Meaning that the world would be able to see you and say, there's a person who always is able to carry hope no matter what you're going through. It's a skill, actually. And in the following verses, he's going to help us be able to realize where we draw up our hope from. Okay? So now he's going to go into kind of the where. The riches of his glorious inheritance in his holy people and his incomparably great power for us who believe. Continue on. That power is the same as the mighty strength he exerted when he raised Christ from the dead and seated him at the right hand in the heavenly realms, far above all rule and authority, power and dominion, and every name that is invoked, not only in this present, but also in the one to come. And God placed all things under his feet and appointed him to be head over everything for the church, which is his body, the fullness of him who fills everything in every way. Now that is a loaded passage, and I could spend weeks preaching through it. But I'm going to try to boil down some important elements right now in the next few minutes of where we draw up our hope. And we can actually build the skill of being able to carry hope out of these three elements that I just want to observe quickly. The first one would be this. Go to the next slide. It's inheritance. It's understanding our inheritance. So he says this, I pray that the eyes of your heart would be enlightened in order that you might know the hope to which he's called you. And then he's going to say, here's part of where you get your hope from. Where is it? The riches of his glorious inheritance. Now check this out. In his holy who? In his holy people. So now this is important, that it's his riches, his inheritance is meant to be on display and seen through his holy people, in us. Anyone else excited? You should be. That he's going, listen, part of your hope is that you're going to be able to access the riches of his inheritance, and it's supposed to be on display in and through his holy people in us. Here's how a lot of times I'll picture how inheritance is supposed to instill hope. Imagine this. Imagine I were to say to you, hey, in 5 years from now, you will be a millionaire. Now, I know money doesn't solve every problem, okay? But for most of us, if you were to say, in 5 years from now, you will be a millionaire, all of a sudden, all of us are like, whew, that's cool. That's really cool. And all of a sudden, like if you have financial issues you're going through or struggles, you're like, you know what? I can make it through tomorrow. Why? Because in 5 years from now, I've got an inheritance. I've got this thing that's coming my way. And so while, yes, it speaks to your future reality, it impacts your current reality, right? It impacts your attitude of today. Okay, so now here's the deal. Your life is but a breath. It's just a mist. Here today, gone tomorrow. Your inheritance in heaven is coming your way. And it will be here before you know it. But the crazy thing is it's not just a someday thing. Everything in the book of Ephesians is literally a someday and today reality of the two things coming together, kind of colliding, because he says it's his glorious inheritance on display in his holy people. Okay, so what does that mean? Here's how I often picture accessing our inheritance in heaven that is a two-day reality and a someday reality, meaning it is to come. It is now, and it also is to come. I picture it like this. Imagine a general store. Back in the old days, maybe in the 40s or 50s, you might have a general store on the corner, and you go in there and you kind of get everything there, right? And in the general store, you can grab yourself a basket and walk around and just kind of grab items and just go and purchase them and say, okay, I'm going to come and get this. And so here's the same thing. In your heavenly inheritance, the heavenly realities, there are things in the heavenly realities that you can just go into heaven and take. They are for you. They are for you to take. You do not even have to ask. That's the wrong word. I was going to say you don't even have to ask God. You don't have to wonder, is it God's will for you to take it? You can take it knowing it is his will for you to take it. So what would that be? An example would be like the fruit of the Spirit. Love, joy, peace, patience, kindness, gentleness, goodness, self-control. It's called the fruit of the Spirit because it's not the fruit of Josh. It's not the fruit of Joe. It's not the fruit of Tom. It's not the fruit of Sally. It's not the fruit of what you can produce on your own. It's from his heavenly reality that is designed to be produced in you and through you, but it's from his kingdom. So love is, the fruit of the Spirit is love. That means that I can love someone who's, are you ready? Unlovable. Not by my own ability, because look at how great Josh is, but because I access something from his reality that's free for me to go and take, and he produces love for this individual that's hard to love. Love, joy, that in a non-joyful situation, I can carry something from his kingdom into this situation, carry joy. Peace, that in a non-peaceful situation, I can carry the peace of heaven into that realm. Okay, so does that make sense? Are you tracking with me? Okay, so you can walk into heaven and you have access. You don't have to wonder, is it God's will for me to grab these things and carry those heavenly realities into my earthly reality today? But then just like there's in a general store, you would always have the clerk, and the clerk is standing behind like the main desk, right? And at the desk, you might have a glass countertop, and there's things in the countertop that you have to ask the clerk to get you. And there's things that are on the back shelf that you'd have to ask the clerk to get off the back shelf. Like, hey, I'd really like that. But I have to ask them to go and get it for me, right? So in the same way, in heaven, there are kingdom realities that I can't just go and take. I actually have to ask through faith that the Holy Spirit would go get that thing for me and give it to me now. They're not just for, I can't just go and grab it. But if it's the Lord's will, he can say, yeah, let me give you this that has been purchased and paid for. Let me give it to you, but it's not something that I just go and grab. I ask him, and ultimately it's his desire, it's his will. So let me give you an example. It could be, let's say it's a financial provision that's once again of a heavenly kind of amount upon my financial situation. I'd say, God, I need you to release kingdom resources over my family. I can't just go and take it, but I can ask for it. I'd say, hey, could you give me maybe a partial or a full picture of my inheritance displayed upon me right now? Does that make sense? For three of you. Okay, great. No, you get it. But there are some things that we have to, that we literally, in faith, we say, we recognize the Holy Spirit is the one, and it's in line with his will to grant those things that are from heaven to us right now. But I can ask for it because it was paid for at the cross, and I can ask for it unashamedly. Second thing, so the first one is inheritance, and once again, knowing what's coming to me changes, yes, it's my future reality, but it changes my present attitude. Second is power. He says this, and I want you to know his incomparably great power for who? For us who believe. So he's talking to Christ followers, to Christians. If you are someone who believes in Jesus, then he says, I want you to have access to his incomparably great power. It's for you. What type of power? Glad you asked, because then he gives us a picture of what the power is. That power, it's the same as the mighty strength that God exerted when he raised Christ from the dead and seated him at the right hand in the heavenly realms. Jazz hands. Like, he goes, I want you to experience resurrection power. And that's accessible to you now. I've had people in my life who have said, man, I struggled with an addiction, but all I can describe it as God's power was displayed in my life, and I experienced complete death over this area, and I just went to life, and no longer do I struggle with that addiction. That is a death to life. That is a resurrection power type thing on display in someone's life. I remember, so years ago, my freshman year of high school, I played football. It was the only year I played football, but I played freshman football. And there was this guy who was a freshman who was very unusual. His name was Steve, and Steve had the body of like a senior in high school or probably a college student. Now, and this is why it's so unusual. It's just that most freshman guys are like all going through puberty. They're all like, their voices are cracking, and they're like, no matter how hard they're working out, they can't put muscle on their bones. They just can't do it. But Steve had pecs. Like, which just, and he had arms, and he was like huge and strong, and he was just like he was like this, he was this powerhouse. And what was crazy is he played varsity football, but because he was a freshman, we could have him come along to our freshman games, and the coach would have him suit up, but he wouldn't play him unless we started losing. Literally, if we started losing, the coach would put Steve in because every time Steve touched the ball, he scored. Every single time, like they'd punt the ball. And I'm telling you, when this guy who's like all muscle gets like running in one direction, every other freshman was like, hey guys, come on. You know, they don't have a chance at stopping Steve. And he would score every time he touched the ball. And then we'd get back in the lead, and the coach would bench Steve and say, all right, guys, now you guys can all play again for a while until we'd lose. And then they put Steve in. But here's the deal, is like Steve was like, he was like the secret power. And here's the deal. Is that God, he looks at us and he's like, hey, I have incomparably great power for us who believe, and it's resurrection power. In many ways, what we're doing, or what we have the ability to do, is ask God, say, God, put Steve in the game. In my situation, God, put Steve in. But what we're saying is, put the resurrection power in the game now. So what does it look like? How do you do that? Let's take an illness, for example. Say that there's someone who's sick and you're praying for healing over their body. The reality is, at the cross, according to Colossians Chapter 1, all things were reconciled to Christ. All things. What's included in all things? All things. That means that sickness. So now here's one of the questions I've wrestled through. I was like, okay, if Christ reconciled that sickness to himself, why is it like the healing is there? So then here's the whole, the deal that we wrestle through as followers of Christ is, why don't we always see the healing? The reality is, because of the cross, the healing will come. Whether it's in this life or in the life to come. Now, I know you might be like, well, they died and then there's healing. There is healing because there will be a resurrected body on the other side without sickness. That's why in heaven there's no more sin, no more death, no more sickness at all in the heavenly realms. So the reality is, the cross accomplished healing. There will be a healing. The question is whether or not we see a partial expression of that on this side of heaven, a complete expression of that this side of heaven, or a complete expression of that when we make it to heaven, but it will be accomplished. And so here's how I pray for the power of the resurrected Christ to be displayed in like a healing situation. I unashamedly ask God to heal people. Now, I don't pretend to boss God around. I'm recognizing he's the clerk, and I'm asking for him to display this, kind of bring this thing out. But what I'm asking for is an early withdrawal of that which has been paid for. I do it unashamedly. I don't pretend boss God around, but I also don't sell him short of what was covered at the cross. So I say, God, this is what the cross fully paid for. Can I see an early withdrawal of that payment here and now upon this person's body? Either a partial or a complete. And I'm good with whatever is in line with your will, whether it's partial, complete, or a future. But I go for it knowing that he says his power is meant to be displayed in and through us for us who believe. He says it. I didn't say it, but he says it in Ephesians, so we go for it. And because of that reality, I have hope. Anyone else? All right, so first one, inheritance. Second one, power. Third one, authority. I don't know if you're going to if you hear it, but I don't know how you can miss it in these next verses. And seated him, being Christ, at the heavenly realms, far above all rule and authority, power and dominion, and every name that's invoked, not only in the present, but also in the one to come. And God placed all things under his feet and appointed him to be head over everything. Listen to this, for the who? This is so important. Are you aware that his authority and his position is not just so that he can be like, I rule. Yes, he does rule, but his rulership is actually for us. You might say, now why does his rulership and his authority change, or how does it impact yours or my perspective? How is that for us? How is it for our benefit? Here's how. Because you know whose team you're on, and you are on the winning team. And knowing that you're on the winning team changes everything. Like, you don't have to go throughout life going, I don't know, are we going to win? Listen, if life seems a little chaotic right now and a little crazy, and you feel like, man, it seems like there's people fighting everywhere over every situation, over everything in this world right now. And maybe you just feel like, God, I'm wondering, are you in control? Let me just read once again some of these words over this situation, or what's going on in our culture. God is far above all rule and authority, power and dominion over every name that is and is to come. He is ruling over all of it. He's not out of control. He's not sitting there going, I wonder if we're going to win. It doesn't matter how bad things get. He is ruling over it. He's in control over it, and he's got this, and you're on his team. And it should impact your attitude. It's for our benefit that we have a sense of victory no matter what we're facing. His rulership over everything is for us, so that we'll always have hope for the situation that we're going through. I often picture biblical hope like this. The perfect picture is Christmas morning. Christmas morning, if you got kids or grandkids, you can almost just imagine the picture. Or maybe you experienced this as a child when your parents would keep you down the hall and they'd say, you stay down there until we prep the room. We're getting everything ready for you. Now, as they're prepping the room, no kid is waiting at the end of the hall and they can't even see around the corner. No kid's waiting down there going, guys, I think we got a 50-50 chance that there might be something good down there. Like, there are no kids thinking this is a maybe. I'm wishing. They have biblical hope. They have this deep-seated in their heart. They know what is to come, yet they can't see it. It's not yet in their vision, but they know what is and is to come to them. Biblical hope is the same thing. It's knowing what is and is coming to me. Are you tracking with me? And that I wait, not the sense of like, 50-50. I wait with this anticipation and excitement of what is and is coming to me, in the sense of my inheritance, his power in my life, and the authority that I am under, and who's going to win. I don't know what you're facing this year or during the holidays this year, but your heart can find hope, not just because it's Christmas time. It's Christmas time. No. It's so much more. We don't hope for what could be. We hope in what is and is to come in our lives. Why don't you guys stand with me, and I'll close here in prayer. Heavenly Father, I thank you so much, and that we live in this day and age, in this time. I know it might seem a little crazy, but the early Israelites, they anchored their hearts in a hope that they believed would come. And we get to anchor our hearts in what is and is to come. We get to anchor our hearts in the inheritance that you offer to us, and that you want to display in and through us, the power of the resurrected Christ that you want to display in and through us, and the authority that you have won, and you have victory over every situation. So Lord, because of those realities, we have hope. We have hope for today and hope for tomorrow. So Lord, I pray that we'd be a people that, much like a skill that sometimes we got to practice, that we'd be people who know the skill of hope and carrying hope, that the watching world would look at us and say, they've got it. They've got hope. So Lord, may that be true over us. In Jesus' name, and all God's people said, amen. Thanks so much for being with us. We got prayer partners right back here, prayer partners online. If you want to give, there's ways to give as you leave here in the boxes as well as online. Be blessed. Have a great week. We'll see you guys next week.
Well, once again, thank you so much for joining us today for the message. As Pastor Josh has said, if you're in need of prayer, we have a team of people that would love to be praying for you right here, right now. All you simply have to do is drop the word prayer in the chat, or you can text your prayer to 262-435-4390. And that's the best way that we can get a team of people praying for you. So, hey, we want to dive into some of the takeaways from today's message. So let me encourage you, whatever you took away, drop it in the chat. It's just a great way of encouraging everybody else that's watching right alongside with you. But Maggie, what did you take away from today's message?
So good. Just hope, just our inheritance in heaven. You know, that is our hope. We are on the winning side. So yeah, it just gives you hope to just fight through all the difficult times in your life.
Yeah, absolutely. Hoping for what is, that we don't have to be like the people in the Old Testament that we're hoping for what could be or what we think is going to happen, but it's a hope of what is, that we get to hold on to that with white knuckle intensity and just keep looking forward to that inheritance that we have for eternity. You know, Pastor Josh said that one of his favorite books is the Book of Ephesians, and that's exactly the book that we've been going through as a church for the past 3 weeks, and it's just been really good to dive into that. So I would encourage that for you as a next step. If you didn't read along with us, maybe hop in for the next couple of weeks and read the Book of Ephesians. But hey, we got a ton of information that we want to pass along to you. One of those is Bible reading plans. Starting this upcoming Wednesday, we're going to be starting an Advent Bible reading plan that's going to be going alongside with this series. So if that's something that you're interested in hopping into, you can reserve your spot in that today. All you have to do is text the word Bible to 262-435-4390. You'll receive a link back that sends you over to the church's website, so you can reserve your spot for that. You also heard that Food for Families is still going on for another week. So if you want to hop in and partner with us in that way, you can text SHARE to 262-435-4390 as well. We've got a couple more things I want to share with you, but we also want to give some shout outs to those of you that shared, especially during our 9 a.m. service. We had a ton that we forgot to give a shout out to, so we want to do that now. Yeah.
Wow.
So who you got?
Lisa Joy, Mike, Keith, and Nate.
I also want to give a shout out to Wendy, Katie, Marcia Sue, and Joyce. Thank you all so much for sharing the service. That's 8 different names that we just rattled off, which means, according to the math, that's 800 people that were reached just because you did your part by partnering with us, just by hitting that share button. So a couple more things. You heard Pastor Josh briefly mention the book that he was working on last year that's going to be released next week, The God Experiment, and a series that's going to be going along with it at the beginning of the new year. Let me encourage you, if you want to hop into a huddle that will read through this book with each other as kind of like a study thing, you can do that by texting the word huddle to, again, that number is 262-435-4390. And one of my favorite things that Pastor Josh said, do you take a lunch break ever?
Yes, of course.
Yeah, right?
Yeah.
What do you, I mean, there's tons of things that you can do during a lunch break. And Pastor Josh said this is a great time to go hop into a huddle and go through the book with a whole bunch of other people is during their lunch break. So if that's something that you're interested in, again, text huddle to 262, Maggie's down, 435-4390, and you can either join or start a huddle today. Final thing that we want to let you know about, there's always you want to do this?
Yeah.
All right, you do this.
So follow us on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and TikTok.
There you go. That keeps you in the know of everything.
YouTube.
Yep, YouTube. That keeps you in the know of everything that's going on here at Lakeland, so you never miss out. So past that, I hope you have a fantastic week. We hope you have a fantastic week, and we'll see you next weekend. God bless.